Hello! Today I'm going to react to the new, very short trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. That's a little redundant with the title. There's a lot of buzz about this movie right now because it has a Spider-verse art style, which is a good thing, but there's tons of conversation going on about, like, people trying to explain how it is different from Spider-verse's style and stuff, and it's just like, we don't gotta get into the science of it. Can't we just love how it looks? Like, I highly doubt that there's people out there that don't like how this looks from just how well received all those other sorts of styles are. So I'm not big into Ninja Turtles. I know a lot about Ninja Turtles because I watch Angry Video Nerd and like other 80s nostalgia YouTubers and stuff. Indirectly seen a lot of like the classic one. But I know recently there was like the Rise series, which looks like it has a really awesome style. And even the 2012 CG show had a lot of awesome style too. And that CGI show, I guess it's just called Ninja Turtles 2012, that's what people call it. That was during like the renaissance of cartoons, or like, you know, when Adventure Time was like starting up and like getting into lore aspects of it and stuff, and like regular show was out. Like, that was a golden era for cartoons for people in my generation, like growing up in the 2000s. So I think I would have really liked that show if I had tuned into it. I know so many other people do. All I can think about is how, like, I've seen AMVs of it where, like, they ship the turtles with, like, random characters from, like, Disney movies. I don't know why that's the first immediate thing that I think of. But anyways, let's take a look at this very quick trailer. I didn't even know this movie was being made. So, like, the fact that it's something like this, like a cool new stylish animated movie is just coming out all of a sudden, is a really pleasant surprise for me. Let's take a look. Oh, it's the fake intro thing. Yeah, Nickelodeon's on this whole binge where they're like reverting their logo and stuff. So I mean, like, that's, you know, that's cool. Look at how cool this it's immediately like so comic booky. So I feel like people don't realize. I can get into that after we watch, I guess.
Stay still. Stay still.
It is weird for them to have like young voices. They have always had older voices, but they're
Stop talking, you're ruining my concentration.
This feels like it makes so much more sense to how I would perceive these characters, though.
Did you hear that? What
the
was
voices.
That? Well, nothing we can do. You guys want to grab pizza?
Can I kick it? Can I kick it? Can I kick it? Can I kick it?
What the heck are those things? They look like little Shreks to me.
Shrek!
Oh, we've prepared our whole lives for this.
April, it's Splinter's voiced by Jackie Chan, which I made a joke about how that's...
Leo, what happened? Is Donnie bleeding? It was an accident. Mikey, watch out!
Looks like there's a fun amount of chaos in this. I can totally get behind that.
Baby turtles who made contact with mystery goo.
Well, we prefer the term ooze, but yeah.
It's like more like, it's just nicer.
It rolls off the tongue better, yeah.
Ooze.
It's nice, right? It's
That's such a like 2020s era animation joke, like over explaining something. Paul Rudd's in it. I think I knew that from seeing stuff on Twitter. Oh, again, a reaction from my YouTubers who inspired me to start doing more reactions. I was trying to say that Jackie Chan voices Splinter, and I made a joke on Twitter about how that's like very similar to how Jackie Chan voices the Mentor in Lego Ninjago movie, which is basically a weird roundabout like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles parody sort of thing. And nobody saw that tweet, but I still think that's very funny. But that's a very niche thing to me. Go watch the Lego Ninjago movie, by the way, especially if you want a stylish 3D animated ninja movie about teenagers. It's vaguely similar to this, I promise. It's like, it doesn't look as cool. I mean, it has the Lego thing going on, but like that's a fantastically fun movie. Anyways, get the Ninjago agenda out of the way. This looks freaking awesome, like visually, but the scenery of it like the whole vibe is so sketchy. Like, it's so dirty, but in such a freaking cool, appealing way that does genuinely look very like, yeah, it looks closer to Spider-Verse than this. Looks closer to Mitchell's versus Machines, actually, I would think, especially with kind of the way the outline on the characters is. It's the sketchy nature of it is similar to that, but it's still quite different. And I think the detailing in the background is pretty different from how Mitchell's versus the Machines had like its environments looking and stuff. But the characters are a bit similar, but there's the frame rate thing going on. Mitchell's didn't really have the frame rate, you know, the lowered frame rate to simulate intentionally stilted animation so that they can draw more really expressive poses for you to see, which I explained in my Puss in Boots Last Wish video that you should watch. But I think something that people don't really think about anymore, because the Turtles are such an 80s thing. The Turtles became a phenomenon because it's so weird. You have to think of it like Phineas and Ferb is the first thing that comes to my mind, where it's like, if you break down Phineas and Ferb and you explain to somebody, especially the stuff with Perry and Doofenshmirtz, they'd be like, that's like, what are you talking about? That's so weird. Like, these two brothers who build stuff, and then their pet is a spy, but he doesn't talk, but he always interrupts the stuff they're building, but they don't know that it's him. Like, then there's music in every episode. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Ninja Turtles was that back in the 80s, because the 80s had just had comic book stuff. And like, yeah, everything back then was kind of made to sell toys. But the Ninja Turtles is such a weird new toy. Like, it's such a boy concept in that sort of stereotypical, like, boys like gross things. And it's like, turtles are reptiles. It's like, they're sort of gross. Like, like stereotypically, they'd maybe be gross to people because they're like green and they're wet. The characters are from a sewer, and they get transformed by ooze, and all the villains are like weird, like rhinos that are like really just like really gritty looking and really like graffiti styled. And this movie totally captures that vibe so well. But that sort of vibe, even though if you look back at the old animated show, I think the comics, like the original comics, have like a really distinct sort of like almost very mature art style to them too. Like, you need to try to understand that the reason why this became a successful franchise at all is because it was so different. And now that we have so many cartoons that are weird, like, this isn't weird anymore. But like, like I said, if you explain this concept to people that didn't watch animation or anything, or have any pop culture knowledge at all, they'd be like, what? Talking turtles? Like, that's so dumb. But they made it so good. Something they're doing with it is making people love it. And it's like the defined personalities of the characters, I guess, and how creative and silly and cool the villains and stuff are. Like, people love it. And this trailer just looks like a fantastic, great modern upgrade to what people have loved. And I think especially like really honing in on them being teenagers, I think is something that's super, super appealing. Even though we can say, like, yeah, stories about teenagers are like overdone, but it's an animated thing. Like, what are you going to do? That's what kids are going to want to see and relate to. I think it works, and I think it works especially well because these characters, I feel like, were never captured in that way because they've always been voiced by adults. Even just the humor and stuff's on display here is very, very like kiddie in a way that's really good. Like, this was that bit at the end of them like just destroying their room was making me actually laugh. Like, there's a lot of good vibes from this for sure. Just beyond how freaking sick the art style looks, it really seems like it'll be very, very fun and pleasant, and probably just have that like really feel good sort of found family sort of thing to it. I think that's probably what they'll go for because that's what everything goes for now. So I think it's gonna be awesome, and it really surprises me to see Nickelodeon do something in this really artsy style so soon after Spider-Verse, I guess. But I don't know, Nickelodeon's on a roll, but they're just like on a roll in the background because I don't personally really pay attention to them, but I think I have to start. But they're also so blatantly obsessed with nostalgia. Like, they're changing their logo back to the splat, and it started like everybody's like, oh, the good Nickelodeon's back, guys. And it's like, I guess it is considering this, but it's also only back because they realize that it works. Like Cartoon Network is in this weird phase especially with the merger and stuff. Like, Cartoon Network has like never nostalgia baited really. Nickelodeon is entirely nostalgia bait, and they're gonna get to a point. I was gonna say, like, they rebooted Rugrats. Nobody even cares, but they did it, and now they're doing Ninja Turtles again. They're giving it a movie with a lot of notable names on it that like old people that grew up with the original. I guess they're not that old, but people who grew up in the 80s with the original are gonna like it. People who grew up with the 2012 one are gonna like it. People who grew up with Rise are gonna like it. Like, the people are gonna love this, and people are immediately recognizing it and appreciating it because of the nostalgia. And that's something that Nickelodeon is just so hyper focused on doing, and it's not bad. It's just so noticeable to me, and I don't really know how many other people are noticing it, because even new SpongeBob episodes, like the newest SpongeBob episode, they went into the salty spittoon. Like, because they had to bring back that concept because they know that that would make people watch it. Some lead on the SpongeBob series right now is telling them to keep doing throwback stuff because they know that that will eventually make people watch it, because viewership on TV is so low right now. Like, how many people watch the Rugrats reboot? Like, for real. Like, Nickelodeon is all about doing nostalgia. But in the case of this movie, they're really seemingly doing it right in a way that's, like, pretty forward thinking because of how cool the style is, but also nostalgic, you know, just because of the franchise itself. It's going to work out really well. And I'm, like, surprisingly excited about this. Like, I don't think this kind of stylized animation is ever going to get old. I know people, like, are trying to be rude and going to act like it's getting old, but it's not. There's, like, 4 movies with this kind of style. There's, like, there's more than 90 movies probably that look like the Disney style. And it's, like, the 3D Disney style, I mean, where it's, like, you know, yeah, it's really pretty. It's really textured and detailed and technically interesting. And there's a recent tweet of, like, how they did some camera trick to make, like, a really good shot in Encanto, but, like, if you zoom the camera out, it looks really goofy. Like, yeah, all that takes talent. This all takes talent. But someone like me who's so engulfed in animation, and so many other people too, we want to see more like this just because it's different. That's why I've always liked new things. Like, I really liked Problem Solvers, and I continue to, because that has that style isn't conventionally appealing, but that style literally has not existed in any other form of televised animation. So I fixate on that show as, like, an example of how you could go different, and it makes it interesting by default that it's different, that it's a totally unfiltered style from a certain person. And I think that that's the kind of thing that the world just needs more of, and the world gets a ton of it if you follow any artist online. But movies, you know, they're falling behind in that regard. But I think something like this is a huge step in the right direction, especially compared to what Disney has been doing, if we just want to, like, specifically call Disney out. But Disney does some cool stuff. Like, Turning Red was awesome, but that's Pixar. I credit Pixar differently from Disney. I argue that Disney, they have higher-ups there that are, like, the ones forcing everything to be very samey. Even though everybody liked Encanto, like, more than anything. So, you know, who am I to talk, I guess. But yeah, I just rambled a lot, but I'm, like, super stoked for this. Super stoked for this era of animation that's going to keep looking as freaking nice as this. I hope the movie doesn't disappoint. This is only a minute-long little trailer, but I totally don't think it'll disappoint. This has the potential to be the best movie of the year that isn't Spider-Verse 2. We'll see. Even the third SpongeBob movie that I always forget exists. Like, earlier in the video, I was going to say that they're making a third SpongeBob movie, and it's like, no, that's been out, like, since the pandemic happened. Like, that's been out for a while. Even that movie has such an awesome style. So I guess maybe some of those animation techniques are being brought into this movie. I didn't even think about that, because that SpongeBob movie has the same sort of 2D-esque thing. But people want to disregard that movie exists because it wasn't, story-wise, wasn't very good. But animation-wise, it was really good, and it was pretty cool. It wasn't as cool as this because the style wasn't as distinct as this, but it was still great. So yeah, Nickelodeon really knows what they're doing. I'm excited for these new stylish pieces of animation. But what do you think? Are you excited for more animation like this? Are you a fan of the Ninja Turtles? Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned to my channel for more animation news, reviews, and reaction videos. Thanks for watching.